Hello, everyone. I'm Plasma Warriors. Me like to call me that guy with the Afro. Well, this video is a little bit different from usual videos because now I get to talk about something that I was noticing over the course of the last year, particularly. But now it's really becoming a point that I wanted to address because a friend of mine, Musashi X, excuse me. He's got his own YouTube video. He does video game reviews. Really cool guy. Really, really big cosplayer slash gamer in the Texas area. And basically, he was talking about how a certain convention was taking a lot of big risks in San Antonio. And I'll get to that point in a moment. But I wanted to address probably the more important thing. Other than, unfortunately, I was sick over the last week, so I couldn't make any real videos. I wanted to do a lot of this earlier. I'll have one final video here at home in San Antonio before I go to Dragon Con. That will be later on today. It's got to be kind of like my last bit before then. But to this point, he said that the convention was taking a lot of risks and bringing in some big names. The one particular name that everyone's about to hear, get to that convention more into detail at another time, is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, if you know anything about conventions, I don't think he's ever been to a single convention, period. Not a Comic-Con, not even a sci-fi or fan, nothing, ever. And so that's the biggest name I've ever heard going to a convention. So it raised the point that conventions are becoming more mainstream, that they're becoming more imperative for like the fan guest to celebrity interaction. Just last year, Comic Palooza, why I'm wearing the shirt right now, a few years back, had Chuck Norris, which I got a picture of. He was a really cool guy, by the way. I mean, I don't mean it as he's a man guy. He's really nice, super, super cool. So I can see what he was talking about, taking a few big risks. But then I got to thinking, you know what the point of this whole convention world has been is that it would be unthinkable even 2 or 3 years. Let me give you an example. When I first started, it was OniCon 2005. It was my first convention. I was really just, hey, I don't know anything. I'm just going out there to see what it's like. And it was really, really, at this time, still, even anime conventions to this day are very personal. They're not take a picture, get an autograph, get out the door. They're really intimate settings, and I'm happier in that regard that some conventions can do that. I don't know if Alamo City Comic Con, the con we were talking about, can. Again, I'll get to that point on a later video. I don't know. I've never been there. Don't look at me. But at that time, it was this intimate setting. You get to talk to the people who did a lot of this, and a lot of Japanese guests I can still talk to. I believe even Delta H Con, I talked to both the Japanese musician guests, the band and the DJ. I can't remember their names. I'm sure I'll come up with it like hour from now when I go back and look at the program and all that. But right now I can't even remember. I'm sorry, whoever you are. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But that intimate setting is what really brought me back to conventions. I come to see the guests. I know it sounds hokey. I know I sound crazy when I say that, but I really do go to see the guest list. I don't go to see the panels so much. I actually do gaming, don't get me wrong, but I don't go for the gaming. I usually go for the guests. Back then, it was more guest list. Nowadays, I go more to give back to the convention world. That is true. I'm more of a volunteer now and more of a guy case the convention world from a point of view that somebody's been there, done that, and keeps going. But back then it was simply, I don't know anybody. I might as well go ahead and talk to these people. They take a lot of their time to do this. Christopher Aris, particularly, really amazing guy. I hope he feels better. I haven't heard much detail. I'm not sure what happened. He had COPD and it was really severe, and I'm hoping he's pulling through. I haven't heard a lot about him, so I'm hoping Christopher Aris is okay. I don't know. Somebody might want to update me on that. But it was a really nice setting. Nowadays, I don't get that so much as I did then. To be very honest, it's harder and harder, even with anime conventions, to really get to know people. There are a few people still I can talk to. Blake Shepard's one of them. Really amazing guy. He always likes to go out when he can and talk to people. I mean, he's one of the best guys that I've been to a lot of conventions, but lately hasn't been like that. And the more mainstream this gets, the harder that's going to be. I understand that, but on the same instance, that kind of setting where you get to interact with the people who make these things happen is something that's important for a lot of conventions, in my opinion, because I don't want to be rude. I'm not disrespectful for anybody on the guest list. They do a lot of work. They have a schedule just as much as anyone else. But I'm not just there to get an autograph and say, hey, bye. I'm there to talk to the guests. Do they remember me all the time? No, that's fine. I just want to say, hey, how you doing? I know who you are. You might not remember me. Some people like Blake Shepard might remember me very often because I go to a lot of conventions. He's like, hey, you go to a lot of conventions? Hey, yeah, like all the time. So it's hard for me to judge if a convention is taking risk because, again, 2 or 3 years ago, you would never see Chuck Norris at a convention. You would never see Arnold Schwarzenegger at a convention. You wouldn't see these stars going to conventions interacting with fans like this. So it's kind of like there may be something to it, but then again, I'm not feeling it elsewhere right now, and maybe that needs to be changed. I don't know. I mean, I've never been to Alamo City Comic Con, and I do think the fan interaction is one of the biggest points to having a guest. I don't want a guest who just goes to their signings and then, oh, I'm done, bye. I want to see somebody take initiative, like a Blake Shepard, by the way. Plugging his name again. I'll do that. I'll plug anyone's name, especially Musashi X, by the way. Link on description of his YouTube channel. But seriously, I think the best thing for conventions becoming mainstream is to not forget they're here to see you, the guests. And I'm the same way. I'm come to see the guests. I don't think it's fair to specifically say, hey, I'm there to see friends I haven't seen in a long time. Sometimes I can see them any day of the week. That's a fair point. Sometimes I can't. I'm going to Atlanta. I haven't seen somebody I saw last year and a whole calendar year. That's just a regular attendee. I'm excited to see her again. I'm excited to see some of the people who are on this security team because they are really awesome people. And excuse me. It goes to show that even though I see those people rarely too, I wouldn't be able to. I still can get in touch with some of these people. I still talk to that one friend of mine every so often. I still can talk to the people who I work with at Dragon Con, but I can't talk to, say, Chuck Norris every day, to be fair, But the mainstream point about this is there are also etiquette rules. I mean, let's be honest. Conventions do a heck of an amazing job making sure these guys are safe and they're where they're supposed to be and their schedules are tight. But on the same end, you got to remember, we as fans have a responsibility not to act up in front of people, not to be, oh, hey, you know what, Betty, let's go out and get a drink. Like that, or, what, I'm going to go. Don't do that part. Don't go out and be violent. Please don't do that. Don't be a jerk, in other words. Just say, hi, how you doing? You know, good to meet you. Take a little bit of their time. If they want to do something afterwards, okay, cool. But I don't want to be like, oh, by the way, you know, hey, you want to get this little voice demo? Just be cool with the guys. You know, dude. I don't just mean hip or awesome. Just be normal. Like, just say hello. This is who I am. Thanks for coming out. If there's anything they want to address afterwards, sure. I mean, I just start off very basic. And eventually, if you get to know these people, yeah, cool. You can talk to them later on. I mean, some of these guys, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the anime voice actors are really amazing. I don't care what people say about Vic Mignogna. He's a cool person when you actually get to talk to him. I mean, he might be what people consider super ego. I never saw that out of the guy. I mean, I know I'm not the inner circle, but so many people look at people based on their perception, you know. Let me be honest. Chuck Norris has this possession of being this big badass. You don't want to mess with him. Don't look at the guy. And yet in reality, he's so humble. He's so cool and very respectful, very kind. So I think the one thing we have to remember is that they're human beings too. They've got lives. And they're just like us. They have to eat. They have to sleep. They have to breathe. Just remember, you might not have more than a few seconds with them, but then again, you might not have as much time. You might not have time with a lot of other people. I don't have a lot of time with so many people in life that I really want to talk to. And I also don't have a lot of time with people I don't want to talk to, but that's aside the point. I think when we get to become more mainstream, we've got to remember that we do come to see each other, and on both sides, the moments we do have, we need to be both respectful and understanding that this could be it for most people. They never get to see somebody like this again. So both sides have to make a great impression. Or in the case of Blake Shepard, be able to talk to when you can, because again, I don't have the number and all that. I'm not asking. It's just, yeah. But when you talk, that perception keeps going around. You know, people still go around and talk about other people day in, day out. So my point about mainstream conventions is that don't forget, there's always more to a convention than just the guest list. And I've already said a few of this before, but I always say, sure, there's a lot of different panels. There's gaming, a lot of gaming. I've got to talk about that in another video. There's parties, different kinds of not events, not what was it, like meetups. There we go. Photo shoots if you're in cosplay. That's what I was thinking. In person, because yeah, you might be there just to meet one person at the start, but the same, find something else to do during a convention that you never fun. I would never have gotten the Vocaloid if it weren't for Onicon having me would never mix. I keep saying that. So I always find something outside to me. Miku is. I know particularly I like Luca's songs, even though some of them are a little bit out there. But generally speaking, I would not get into that if it wasn't for something on what I would do normally that connects me. I wouldn't. It's like point A to point C, in other words. But I think the biggest part about conventions, even if you find something you like there that you would not expect, is I say it at the end of every convention. Don't let the convention be the stopping point of your fandom. Don't go to a convention and say, this is all I'm going to do. Go out there, wherever it may be, and tell them, hey, this is a cool thing. You want to try this game? This is an awesome game. Again, it's like Hatsune Miku. I would not have done that. And I keep talking about Pathfinder because somebody told me, and not even at a convention, not even during a convention that I was going to. Pathfinder is a good game. You want to try that out? Sure. So I tried that out, and I started liking that. And that Pathfinder Society, great people all the way down. I've been to 3 different conventions where I played Pathfinder with somebody, with Society play. I should go to more, admittedly, but that's all the ones that had them. In San Antonio, Houston, and Georgia, I've never had a bad person in any one of these spots. Never. So that should tell you something. You always look outside the convention just as much as you look inside for something to do. And again, you can find it. It's out there. But as for the mainstream nature of conventions, it's happening. And you might want to get on board. You might not. That's your prerogative. But I want to say it like this. The more conventions become mainstream, the more we have to be careful of ourselves. Now, again, conventions do an amazing job typically of having the security, having the people in place to take care of these guests, having events, and having people like Musashi X who just loves conventions. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Again, doing all this without editing, it's a lot of work. Always look and see, both inside a convention, what else you can do, but never stop at the end of the convention. Always make it happen outside of it. So, if anything, with these conventions becoming more mainstream, we have to be more respectful, again. But I think also you've got to look for people who go to a lot of conventions as well, like myself, Musashi X, other groups. But in general, talk to these people and see what they know about conventions, because their experience is just as valuable, in my opinion, than going to a convention and talking to the guests. Again, I came in my first con, I knew nothing. I was like, what? What's this? What's that? Is that there? Is that there? That. I didn't know. So when it came down to it, I was happy learning just as much as I was talking to the guests. I learned a lot through a lot of years of conventioning. So when I say something, it's not, oh, by the way, this guy told you so. No, it's somebody who's been there and understands the way conventions work. And I've been volunteering for conventions. This is now officially my 10th year. Actually, Dragon Con would be the 10th year con, by the way, of volunteering for convention, not just going to them. I just realized that. Wow. But again, there are people out there who can tell you what to do at specific cons too. Dragon Con is going to be a huge convention. I can tell you a few things. I don't know everything. I don't think anyone can really know everything about every con, but I can definitely tell you about this place or that place and where you need to go here, where you need to go there. So if you can find somebody who knows about that specific con, ask them and see what they have to say. Because again, it's all about what experience you get. And again, conventions are becoming more mainstream. But again, it's who has experience here, who has experience there. It might be important to know that too. And in the end, the more we become mainstream, the harder it always is to get into this. Some conventions are going to get really tricky, and a lot of conventions are going to have to expand really fast. I wouldn't have expected to say this, but I think for a lot of conventions in San Antonio, except for one that seems to be shrinking, I hope not, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger really quickly. So always look to see if the con size is going to be right for you as well as we get more mainstream, because you don't want to be in a place with 25,000 people and like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it. No. If the convention's smaller, you might have an easier time with that, I admit. If the convention's bigger, it can be tricky for some people. But as we get into a size where it's getting more mainstream, think about, should I go to this convention for a day or two and just get here, there, and out there? Because again, you're going to have to encounter crowds. I don't just mean long lines, I mean people. So that's another aspect. In general, the more we become mainstream, the harder it is to really know what size you want. So if you want to start small at these smaller conventions, these smaller places, I definitely would say that, but make sure also you can handle the big crowds if you're going to be into this more mainstream kind of mentality. I'm perfectly fine with 100,000 people in a small square block of a downtown Atlanta. So sure, if it really comes down to it, if you have to start small, start small. It's not going to hurt you to say, oh, I can't make it to this con. I'm not really sure I can do this. It's too many people. I'm a little afraid of crowds. That's fine. Just begin with a smaller convention or small get-together. You never know. Maybe these smaller little get-togethers you have could turn into a bigger convention. Think about it that way. But as we come mainstream, we have to take care of ourselves just as much as the guests are taken care of. So with that being said, I don't really have much to say on this topic other than the more mainstream we get, the more aware of our situation we have to be. That's what it really boils down to. Excuse me. So with that being said, one last video before I go off to Atlanta, Georgia, starting tomorrow. That's coming soon. Until then, later.